Welcome back in week 16. Fantasy playoffs are upon us, or week 2 of the fantasy playoffs, that is. So you're here, you have questions, means you made it. So congratulations, only 1 week away from the glorious, glorious fantasy championship. Also, Christmas week is only a week away. So kind of threw on the old Christmas hat to get in the spirit. So let's just get to it. Group Michael Carter over Godwin for my flex. Also, should I start LA Rams defense or drop Chicago for Cincinnati defense? I would play Michael Carter over Chris Godwin. Obviously, it's gotten a little bit more crowded now in Tampa Bay with Mike Evans back, and obviously Emeka Egbuka is still there, so makes it a little bit tougher to project Chris Godwin. Not saying he can't have a good game, but I prefer Michael Carter now that we know that Bam Knight is placed on IR. I have Michael Carter at RB 18 this week, so kind of like that spot for him. Obviously, it's a good matchup. Atlanta's defense has kind of fallen off in recent weeks, so I think you feel pretty good about that. About that spot that he's in. Last week, he played a huge workload in that backfield. You still have Amari DiMercado, who's probably still going to mix in, but we've we've seen this before with him. I still think probably 65% of the snaps he's going to get targets as well. So I just think it's a really good spot for Michael Carter. As far as defenses are concerned, I don't. I would probably start the Rams. I know the situation with Quinn Ewers is going on, and I just don't have any real desire to play Cincinnati. To be honest with you, I just think that defense is bad, and so like I would rather play like the Titans. I think the Titans are a good defense to stream this week with now Patrick Mahomes being out and Rashee Rice very much unlikely to play, considering that they just got kicked out of the playoffs. So I think the Titans are actually a pretty solid play this week at the tight end position or at the defense position for me. So I have the Titans uh, at 8. I have the Rams at 9 for defenses this week, and then Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, or Minnesota. Give me Minnesota. Really like this spot for Minnesota. I know Jackson Dart has played really well this year, but the Vikings haven't allowed a passing touchdown since I think week 9, and they haven't allowed over 200-yard passer either. And so I just really like this spot for Minnesota. I know Jackson Dart hasn't really turned the ball over a lot, but he has been sacked 24 times, about 2.5 times per game. And so this is a very blitz heavy defense for Minnesota. And just Minnesota's on an absolute heater on the defensive side of the ball. So I would go with Minnesota here. I have Tyler Warren, but I just don't trust him because of Philip Rivers. Should I start Colby Parkinson over him or just play Tyler Warren? I would go with Colby Parkinson. Really good spot for Parkinson. Unlikely Devontae Adams plays. And so for me, when it comes to this situation, I don't hate Tyler Warren. I think this is a better matchup. Obviously, last week on the road against Seattle, tough first start. San Francisco's defense is not very good. We know that, and so like it's not a bad spot. I think this offense can look a little bit better at home as well this week. What is that Monday Night Football? I think they play on, but I would still go Colby Parkinson. I just think he leads all tight ends. I think since week 6 in red zone targets, he's been racking up a ton of touchdowns. And now he's probably the number 2 target. I know Tyler Higbee's eligible to return. I would be shocked if Tyler Higbee played on Thursday. I think there's a much better shot he would return next week. But so for me, I would just go with Colby Parkinson. Harold. Hello, Rice and concussion protocol. Olave Jennings. I think there's a second part of this. Or a full part. Olave, Jaden Reed, need 2 non PPR, also Kelsey or Parkinson. Give me Travis Kelsey on the tight end one. I just think with likely Rashee Rice out. I mean, the Titans defense, pass defense is still not great. And like Gardner Minshew can at least I think he's like a functional backup quarterback. He's not great. The Chiefs offensive line is still going to be in complete disarray. Likely still going to be starting Esapole, probably still starting I don't even think Jalen Moore is going to be ready because he got hurt. I don't know if Jawan Taylor is going to be back for this one or not, or Trey Smith. So I mean, they could once again be playing two undrafted free agents at or at tackle, as well as Mike Caliendo at right guard. So, um, but I still think that this pass defense is very vulnerable. The Titans have allowed a QB1 in 8 straight games. So this pass defense is really taking hits. Actually, their run defense has actually been really good. The run defense has been one of the best among the best in the league over the last five or 6 weeks. And we kind of even saw it last week with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they really held him in check in terms of on the ground. And so I think this team's still going to be probably throwing the ball quite a bit. And so I think Kelsey makes a lot of sense. Also, very short sample size, but once Gardner Minshew came in the game last week, he targeted Travis Kelsey on 3 of his 4 targets. So I do think Kelsey, it makes a lot of sense. As far as the other ones are concerned, I would go with Olave and Juwan Jennings. Pollard, Henry, Javante need 2. I would sit Pollard. The Chiefs have still been really good against the run this year. They have pretty much shut down pretty much everybody they played on the run. I know Pollard has been on this heater recently, but there's also much better matchups that he's going to be facing. This is one of the worst matchups you can get for a running back. So I would sit Pollard and just go Henry and Javante. Dart or Stafford. So again, I already kind of talked about it. I don't love Dart. He might be able to get there on the ground, maybe a rushing touchdown or something like that. But Minnesota's, like I said, Minnesota's pass defense has been excellent. And so I would go with Stafford in that one. And then Purdy or Brissett, that one's tougher because I love both of those guys. But this week, I think both are really strong quarterback plays this week. But I would go with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has just been an absolute machine since taking over as a starting quarterback here, and he has now been a top. He's put up a QB1 week in every single game that he's played this year. I mean, stuff of legends right now, and it's not just necessarily all garbage time. He's actually been playing well. I mean, he has the 6th highest completion percentage and his 95.9 passer rating is top 13. And so, like I said, I mean, he's done this against like some of the best pass defenses in the league and the Texans, Seahawks, and Rams. And now you're going to get a Falcons defense that has allowed the 5th most fantasy points to quarterback. So I think this is a really good spot here for Brissett. Another situation we're going to have to monitor, though, with that game is going to be, it looks like maybe Marvin Harrison is going to try to return to practice this week. So that could be a pretty big blow for the Michael Wilson crowd out there because we've kind of seen it with Marvin Harrison back. Like he's going to see a pretty significant decline in targets. So that is going to hurt a little bit. But right now, with my rankings, I would go off of what we know right now. So I still have Michael Wilson at wide receiver 9, but that's because of we're not sure if Marvin Harrison is going to play. If Marvin Harrison plays, I would drop him down to like probably a wide receiver 3, honestly. Oh, well, the quarterback change in Miami hurt Achane's production. I mean, in years past, we've seen that, right? Like last year, we saw it where he averaged like 8 fantasy points per game. Um, Now, there's a couple of things I will say. One, it's obviously a tremendous matchup against the Bengals. Bengals run defense is terrible. And so, like, that's a plus. And so, like, he could still get there on like 20 carries, right? Now, I don't know what I don't think we can count for the passing volume the same way you would with Tua, but I still think he should be fine. I knocked him down a little bit in my rankings where I originally had him as the RB2. This week, I knocked him down to RB6. I felt pretty decent about that. I feel pretty good about having him there. I still think it's a really good spot. The matchup is still really good. It is going to affect him. Like it's certainly going to hit. It's going to hurt him a little bit. But I one, there's obviously no way you're sitting him, and two, it's just the matchup is too good. I think to ignore. Jason, are we playing London if he plays? Same injury as Bowers and Ricky and both came back being garbage. Also, Chiefs D or Saints D this week. Give me the Saints D for me on that one on the defensive side. As far as this injury is concerned, I mean, if he's good to go, like it really would come down to like who are you playing him over, right? Like what are your other options? Because it is a good matchup. The Cardinals' pass defense is falling off a cliff, and so like it is a very good matchup for Drake London. And I would assume, especially with him being out of it, if he wasn't good to go, I cannot see them rushing him back and putting him back out there. And so I feel like if he's out there, he's playing. I would be shocked at this point of the year that if he played and like he wasn't 100%. Assuming I start Javante and Barkley at my running backs, am I crazy for benching Kyron due to quorum 50-50 workload and a hard matchup? Need to start two Kyron, Hampton, Vidal, Carter, Sutton, Terry. I don't think it's necessarily crazy at all because, like you mentioned, I do think the Blake Corum stuff is real. And like that game environment could be kind of gross, but with these two teams, obviously 2 11-3 teams fighting for the division. But if I was going to sit him, probably would be for Michael Carter, but that's obviously a tough pill to swallow. I mean, sitting Kyron Williams for Michael Carter. Like I think Michael Carter is the one that makes the most sense. I think Sutton or Terry would be pretty close as well. Here in this spot that they're going to be in. I mean, Sutton getting the Jaguars, but the Jaguars' pass defense has been where you want to beat them. And then you get Terry McLaurin, on Saturday playing the Eagles. So I have no problem with sitting Kyron. If I was going to do it, it probably though would be for Michael Carter, just because I think he has a much better projectable volume, projectable role, and it's a very good situation. Now, the thing that would scare you though is that they don't really run the ball that much, and they continue to throw the ball at a really high rate because that's what's made Jacoby Brissett so good. Is that Jacoby Brissett has basically dropped back 40 plus times every single game. He leads all quarterbacks and pass attempts over the time that he's started. And so, like, that's what's made this role so good. That's why we've been able to see him support multiple, pass catchers at a really high rate. I mean, Trey McBride has been, in a wide receiver one or RB1 since this run that he's been on. We've also seen Michael Wilson go nuclear as well, along with him, and we've seen Marvin Harrison have good games. So that's the only part that would worry me. I think with Carter, um, I think Kyron's probably your safer bet, just because he probably has a better chance for a touchdown. Or if you really wanted to go another direction, like among the wide receivers, I have Terry McLaurin slightly ahead of Courtland Sutton. Thanks, like always, and happy holidays. I also think it's supposed to rain in Seattle too. Yeah, I mean, rain doesn't really concern me all that much. Only thing that really worries me is wind. Jason starter one, Warren, 67-year-old quarterback, good of a good matchup. Waller, no Tua. Loveland, if no Komet. Burden in Rome, or Schultz already starting Nico, but opponent has CJ, so I could double block. I would go with it. Probably would come down to Tyler Warren and Darren Waller. It's really close between those two. I think I have Waller at 8 or 9, and then I have Warren at 10. Yeah, Warren. So Waller, it does concern me some, and like I may end up dropping him a little bit further, to be honest, because the Quinn Ewer stuff does really concern me. Now the matchup is incredible, as we know. Uh, that's what we were so excited about playing Darren Waller this week. I haven't fully set in, so like I probably, if I was in your position, I would probably still start Tyler Warren because, like I said, the matchup is significantly better here in this spot against the 49ers, where it was a much tougher spot last week, for the Colts traveling on the road. If it was me, championship week or not champion, the week before the championship, we're in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to get too cute. I would probably now with Ewers at quarterback, I probably would just go and play Tyler Warren. To be honest with you, start five, two running backs, one wide receiver, two flex: Rico, Hampton, Vidal, Pollard, Kamara. I do not think Kamara's playing. It's Tedero and McMillan, Wandell Robinson, Shakir Burton. I would probably go Rico and Hampton. And then at wide receiver, one wide receiver, I would go with McMillan, Ted McMillan. Man, I really do not love playing Rico and Ted together, but um, I'd probably go Ted, and then a flex, I would go as long as Burden plays, I would go Burden and Wandale Robinson. Who are the top three quarterbacks in order to start this week? I mean, it's Brissett, Burrow, then Bo Nix for me. Cincinnati defense against yours. I just can't do it. I can't. This team has no pass rush. Like I get it. I do not expect Quinn Ewers to be good. He played 2 drives against the Browns earlier in the year, and he was sacked twice on those 2 drives. It wasn't anything impressive. Now, obviously they get to spend the whole week, as the starting quarterback, taking reps, all those things, and it was obviously a much different matchup. But I just think there's better defenses to stream this week than just trying to go to Cincinnati. Augie, where is Stafford in your quarterback rankings this week? QB 15 for me. Full PPR, pick one wide receiver, one flex. Aaron Jones, Godwin, Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Kayshawn. So I would go Aaron Jones in the flex for sure. And it does sound like Christian Watson's going to play this weekend. At least that's the reporting as of today that he should play. I would probably go Jaden Reed as my other option. Mark Carter, Ted McMillan, flex. Ted had injury report, flex, full PPR. I would go with Michael Carter. Chip, start one wide receiver, one flex. McMillan, Myers, Shakir, Pearsall, Marks, Tracy Hampton. I mean, if Woody Marks plays, I would probably go Woody Marks against the Raiders, but I don't think that he plays, to be fair. They they don't have it wrapped up, but they are pretty close. And if I feel like they probably feel pretty confident that they could beat the Raiders, especially with their defense without Woody Marks and with him dealing with so many injuries this year and being in and out of the medical tent. I just think that there's probably a better chance that they sit him. He didn't practice today. It was Chubb and Jahar Jordan that was the guy. So I don't think Marks plays, but you never know. It's only Wednesday, so we only put so much stock into Wednesday practice reports, anyways. But as things currently stand, I would probably go with Amari and Hampton in the flex and Jacoby Myers at wide receiver. Ebbs and flow. Love the hats. Pick 4. PPR. Jefferson, London, Igbuka, JSN, Devonta, Shakur, Marv. Thanks. Appreciate the comment on the hat. So for me, obviously, we're locking. I mean, JSN's a lock. We don't even have to talk about that. London. If London plays, I'm going to go with Drake London. I can't set him just in the spot against Arizona. Like I said, they're out of it. If I cannot see a scenario where they just have him come back if he's not fully healthy and ready to go. It would make absolute zero sense. So if he plays, I would go with JSN, London, Jefferson. Like Jefferson has to get there eventually, right? I mean, he had a couple touchdowns, or at least one, if not 2 touchdowns. He should have had last week against Dallas. One hit him right in the hands. He absolutely dropped it. JJ McCarthy is playing much better than the last couple of weeks. It's a good matchup for them. Like, I would still go Justin Jefferson. It scares the bejesus out of me, obviously, because he has been great. But eventually, he has to have a breakout game, right? Like this can't keep going for him all year. So I would go Jason, London, Jefferson, and then at the 4th wide receiver spot, I would go with Devonta Smith. Mark, pick one flex. Tet, Coker, Carter. I would go Michael Carter. Half PPR, pick a running back and a flex. Jinty, Kyron, Terry McLaurin, Jennings. So Jennings is going to be the flex. And then I would go with Kyron. I'm not playing Jinty against that defense, against the Houston Texans defense. I mean, I have Jinty as a running back RB3 this week. Do I continue to start ETN or start Michael Carter? I would still go with ETN. It's not as good of a matchup against, but he's still it's still a much better offense. I would go with ETN over Michael Carter here. Waller or Parkinson? Go with if this was yesterday, I would have said Darren Waller. Today, I'm going Colby Parkinson. With Quinn Ewers, I'm not doing it if I don't have to. So I would go with Parkinson. Stafford or Lamar, and Warren or Schultz. I would go with Lamar. It does obviously worry me, but interdivisional game between the Rams and the Seahawks here, and it does worry me. It is on the road as well for Stafford in this game against the the Seahawks. So I would go with Lamar over Stafford here, and then Warren or Schultz. I would go with Warren. Who should I start RB1 and RB2? I also need a flex. Ooh, boy. I would go of the options you have. I would go with Walker and I would go with Jinty, but is Audric Estime sitting out there? Oh wait, I just see your next question. He is out there. Audric Estime worth picking up with Neal out and Kamara potentially being out as well. Yes, I have Audric Estime as like a low end RB2. This is an incredible matchup for Audric Estime and any running back. I was upset that because I have personally Devin Neal as well, and I was looking forward to playing Devin Neal in the spot because the Jets have been absolutely horrendous against running backs. Like over the last 6 weeks, they have allowed almost 40 fantasy points, PPR points per game to running backs. The next closest is like 8 fantasy points per game behind them. And so, like, they have just been absolutely shredded by the run. Now, there is the concern that it's a complete split with Audric Estime and Evan Hull, but Audric Estime did play more snaps. He was way more productive than Evan Hull was. I think he had like 6 touches for 50 yards. Evan Hull had 4 touches for 13 yards. And so I like this spot. I like the matchup. They should be leading. And so I actually like Audric Estime over both of your running backs you have here. I would probably go you could probably flip a coin between Jinty and Kenneth Walker, but I would probably go Jinty. And the only reason I say that is because he has been pretty involved in the passing game. I hate the matchup, like I've said. Now we could get a little bit of a plus, like a small plus at Colton Miller. They're like he's a top 10 left tackle in the league. Returned to practice last week, practice on a limited basis all last week. He's practicing again this week. If he plays this weekend, then that is a pretty significant boost to their offensive line. Now that does not make their offensive line great, but it certainly helps. And so like that's also a plus there. So I slight lean towards Jinty, but every time I've been off Walker this year and I've just completely jumped off the bandwagon completely is when he's bit me. A couple weeks ago when he scored 20 he scored 20 points, not drafting points, 20 PPR points, and I was completely off of him. Wanted nothing to do with them, and of course he goes out and scores a touchdown. So I'm sure it'll bite me in the ass again, but I would slightly lean towards Jinty, and if I could, I would pick up Audric Estime and play him, and then your other one for the flex, I would go with Wan'Dale Robinson. Excuse me. Sorry. Who would you flex? Warren, Rome, or Jalen Cooker? I don't think Rome plays. It'd be kind of wild if he did, considering they tried to bring him back and he re-aggravated the injury. It would make zero sense to me for him to play. I would be shocked if he did. Warren. Now, so this is a good or it's a better matchup for Kenneth Gainwell. That's why I actually have Kenneth Gainwell ahead of Jaylen Warren this week because of the pass catching role that he has. He's actually since I think week 9, he is tied for the most receptions in the league. I think it's week 9, maybe week 8. Actually, I can tell you right. Yeah, since week 8. Sorry. He is tied with Jahmyr Gibbs and Chase Brown with a 16% target share and 36 receptions over that span. And so like this sets up much more in this game where they're going to be playing from behind. And so it feels much more like a Michael Carter game. So I guess maybe you go Jalen Coker. I just I probably would go Jalen Warren, just hope he finds the end zone, to be honest. I don't love it. It's just Coker is way more volatile, way more boom or bust. Could possibly see 3 or 4 targets. Like there's a lot more volatility there. So between those 3, I'd just go Jalen Warren. Said all that just to say that. Junkins or Genty this week? Give me Quinshon Junkins. Is it time to drop Quentin Johnson? Yeah, I think you can. I think it's fine. I mean, there's 2 weeks left in the year. There's no real reason anymore to hold on to somebody. If you like the way I look at it, if I know that I'm not like I would not have any interest, like I would never play this player, I'm not starting them. I wouldn't start them, then I'm perfectly okay with dropping them. And like I said, there's 2 weeks left. Now it is they do get a good matchup this weekend against the Cowboys, but it's still super volatile. The Chargers have completely went away from the pass. Like that's what made this offense so good. Like with Justin Herbert, um, over the first 9 games of the year, Herbert was the QB2, averaging 265 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns on 36.2 pass attempts per game. And he was averaging 21.9 PPR fantasy points per game. But over the previous 5 games, Justin Herbert is the QB 32, averaging 160.2 passing yards per game and a touchdown on just 25.2 pass attempts per game, which ranks dead last. And he's also averaging 11.7 fantasy points per game over that span. And really, what's been the big blow is that it coincides with Joe Alt. Once they lost Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, we kind of saw this drop. I mean, Herbert averaged 6 point without Joe Alt. Now he's averaged a 6.5 yards per attempt with a 4% touchdown rate and is being sacked on 10.5% of his dropbacks. But with Alt, he was actually averaging 8.3 yards per attempt, a incredible 7% touchdown rate, and was only being sacked on about 8% of dropbacks. So, like, it's really fallen off a cliff here for this passing offense. But that's what I think I think you easily could drop Quentin Johnson and not really worry about it. Also starting Fannin or Kelsey, worried about Minshew over there. Yeah, but I mean, let's face it, the Browns have Shedeur Sanders too. So like, it's not like I mean, Fannin. The good news would be if Rashee Rice ends up missing, and also that really opens up the door for probably Xavier Worthy as well to kind of reinsert himself back into this offense with if Rashee Rice would miss. I would be shocked if Rashee Rice played. Coming up with him dealing with concussion protocol symptoms, like there's no real reason for him to play at this point. The Chiefs are out of it. It would make a lot more sense for them just to sit him. And so if that happens, I just think Kelsey is in a really, really good spot this week. Country Boy Jazz, 12-man PPR. Start who? 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Quarterback, Purdy, McCarthy, Brissett. I would go with Brissett. Running back, CMC, Jones, Walker, Rodriguez. I would go CMC and Aaron Jones. Wide receivers, I would go with Olave and Juwan Jennings at tight end. I would go with Darren Waller. Defense, give me the Rams. And then your flex, I would go with Terry McLaurin. Corey, Fletch Tracy or Egbuka? I would go with Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy has looked really good. Came back to a really strong touch share last week. Was heavily involved in the offense. Massively outsnapped Devin Singletary, and just looked really good. And so I would go with Tyrone Tracy. May or Hurts. Obviously, it's really close for me. I think Jalen Hurts has the much better matchup against Washington. The Commanders' defense is horrible, and I mean it is really truly one of the worst in the league. I mean, it's right there with like the Bengals and the Giants, having just like some of the among the worst defenses. And so I would still go with Jalen Hurts, but as far as Drake May is concerned, he's obviously right behind him. His rushing upside is massive. So like that's there as well. But I would slightly lean towards Jalen Hurts. But if you wanted to go with Drake May, I am so close. I wouldn't blame you for it either. PPR pick three: Jinty, Waddle, Shakir, Carter, Schultz, Coker. I would go with Michael Carter, Jalen Waddle. And then I think it honestly comes down to Dalton Schultz or Ashton Genty. I probably go with let me see one thing. Full PPR. Man, it's tough. You know what? I'd probably go with Dalton Schultz. I just think he has a higher ceiling. I'd rather go with that passing offense than going with Ashton Genty. Now, I mean, Ashton Genty, even in a really bad matchup last week, still saw 6 targets. Like that's the appeal with Genty. Over since week 11, he has seen 8 or more targets in 3 of the 5, and he's seen 6 or more in 5 of 6 of those. Like he has been being peppered with targets. Like so that is a plus for him. But like as far as the rushing attack is concerned, it's been dreadful. And he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 12 against Cleveland. Like I would probably go with Dalton Schultz. Rashida Rice is out. Cup or Hollywood Brown? Thanks. Mm, uh, I guess Cooper Cup. Like I don't love either one of them. I mean Hollywood Brown isn't a terrible play, um, but let's see. Like I would rather play. Like I don't know if these guys are available, but like Jalen Coker, I would definitely rather play him. Like Darius Slayton, if he was sitting out there, I'd rather play him. I don't know. I just it worries me. But if I had to choose between those ones, it would be probably Cooper Cup. Little revenge game narrative. Hey yo, what's up, Super Dave? I have been eliminated in every contest or league but one Pomeranian. 2, just chilling. Trying to avoid the Turd Bowl trophy in my home league. If Tyler, if Rice isn't playing, Devonta Smith, who is to trust, Worthy or Jane Reed? I would go with Xavier Worthy, assuming Rashee Rice is out. Hello, Mixed Danny. How are you doing? First time here, I have a start sit question. RJ Harvey or Buka. So if as long as RJ Harvey plays, I would go with RJ Harvey. I just think there's a lot more volatility with Igbuka. And just Baker Mayfield has not played well. I really think this shoulder injury that he's playing through is absolutely killing him. Kind of already said it before. We've seen this before with him back when he was with Cleveland, his final year, and he was playing through a significant shoulder injury. He did not play very well all the rest of the year after that, and it feels like that's very much what we're seeing from him again this year. Is he's playing through this injury that he's picked up, and he just really hasn't been the same. Now you have Mike Evans back, you have uh, Chris Godwin, and it just doesn't feel great. Like he should still see a decent amount of targets, but as long as Harvey plays, I would go with RJ Harvey. DK or Olave. This is actually really close than I thought it was going to be because this is a really good spot for DK Metcalf. Like the Lions defense and their secondary is absolutely abused right now. And so I think DK Metcalf and honestly, the old man Aaron Rodgers actually hasn't looked too terrible recently. Like he's looked pretty good. But I like DK Metcalf. I have him as like a top 15 wide receiver, but I would still go with Chris Olave, who I have as a low end wide receiver one. Rice put in the concussion protocol on Monday. Not sure if he clears, but he's mad, man. Yeah. I mean, he got absolutely destroyed a couple of times by Tony Jefferson in that game against the Chargers. And yeah, I would be shocked if he played at this point. Shout out to Jacoby Beef Brisket Brissett. Yeah. It's been a legendary run for him so far this year. I mean, it really has. He's been incredible. Terry, one wide receiver, one flex, PPR, ETN, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison. So wide receiver, I'm going to go with Mike Evans. I think he's a really solid wide receiver one option this week. I have him as a top 10 wide receiver. And then I would probably go Travis Etienne, but I would be really tempted to go Justin Jefferson. If it was me, it was my team, I would probably go with Justin Jefferson just because the matchup for ETN obviously isn't as great going up against the Broncos here in this spot. And obviously, it's also a road matchup for the Jaguars as well. So that's always a little bit tricky to concern. Teams tend to know at times. And so I like ETN. He's seeing a really solid role, but it would be really hard to sit Justin Jefferson in this absolute great matchup against the Giants. And so I would probably lean towards, if it was me, I would go Justin Jefferson. But I do think Travis Etienne is 100% the safer play. And if you did not want to keep continually going through the Justin Jefferson experiment, I totally understand. Greg, start Estime, Carter, or Junkins. I really like Estime this week. I do. Devin Neal's already been ruled out. What a shame. But it's a tremendous matchup against the Jets. But I would still go Michael Carter. Still a really good matchup for him against the Falcons. And like I said, like last week, I think he played like 80% of the snaps, 80% of the rush attempts. Amari DiMercado is going to mix in, but he's still a really good play right now. So I would go with Carter. I would actually rank them Carter, Estime, than Junkins if it was me. He gets to most of the questions. He takes time, explains why often. Yeah. Sometimes maybe I explain too long, but I don't know. I've always been of the mind I'd rather have people like talk through a situation and explain their answer of why versus just like for William here, just be like flex PPR, Reed, Coker, Addison, Carter, Michael Carter, and just go through them and read them through them really quickly. Like I give you no context as to why. And I don't know. I would rather someone because at the end of the day, these are still your fantasy teams, and like you guys have to be the one that makes the decision. So I can just explain to you why I feel that way. But you may feel completely different, and that's okay. And because you got to be the one that makes that decision for your team. I can just tell you why I would do what I would do. Anyway, sorry. But this still would be Michael Carter for me, as we just talked about. I think Jaden Reed is with Christian Watson coming back, Matthew Golden being back, a little bit more crowded. Coker, I think, is a pretty solid flex option, but I still wouldn't have him over Carter. Addison, again, really good matchup, much like Justin Jefferson, but I just the Vikings do not want to throw the ball that much. So I would still go Carter. Ray, which wide receiver would you play in non-PPR 6-point passing touchdown league? Jefferson, Sutton, Jaden Reed, Ekbuka. I'd probably have to sit BTJ versus Denver and Rice. So we're gonna go Jefferson. And then I would go with Cortland Sutton over the rest of the options you have. PPR flex question: George Pickens or Rico Dotto? Give me George Pickens. I mean, he's got to turn this around eventually, right? We can't for these last couple of weeks. But Rico Dowdle worries the hell out of me. If they fall behind, they're going to go to Chuba Hubbard. They need a really positive game script for Rico Dowdle to pay off. So I would go with George Pickens. Over on Twitch, Brissett, Dart, or Mayfield. Give me Jacoby Brissett. Love Jacoby Brissett. Top 5 quarterback play this week. Would you play Burrow or Lamar in 6 point per touchdown? I keep going back and forth. Really stuck. Would you still play Burrow even if Higgins doesn't play? I will say it's a positive note. I know he practiced a little bit last week, but it's a positive. They said he's supposed to practice. I think he practiced today to limited capacity. We just need to get that full now tomorrow. So we'll see if he's able to get cleared at this point. And so I would still go Joe Burrow over Lamar, but it obviously is close. I have Burrow at 7, Lamar at 8. BTJ, Troy Franklin, or Diggs? I would go Brian Thomas Jr., but like you would think it would be Stephon Diggs here. It's just with him, like his role has just not been very good at all recently. And I don't necessarily understand why. I understand earlier in the year with him coming off the injury was, and maybe they're just trying to limp him along to get him to, the playoffs. But like he hasn't scored more than 6 PPR points since week 11, and now he's only playing about 50% of the snaps, running about 50% of the routes. Hasn't seen more than 4 targets in a game over that same span, where it looked like his role was really growing from, week 10 and before that, especially like week 7 to week 10. Like he was playing 60% of the snaps, running 70-80% of the routes. His targets were much more healthier, but they just haven't been in recent weeks. And so I'm not saying he can't get there this week, because he certainly could, especially them coming off a loss. But I just don't try. It makes it really hard to trust. And then Franklin, I know Franklin's coming off a good game, but I think there's a pretty decent shot that Pat Bryant could be back this week. And the thing with those wide receivers with Denver, they just spread the ball around so much that it's very volatile to trust. And I will say Franklin, last week actually led all wide receivers in target share. The way they're utilizing him is downfield. I know they have Surtain, but they're not going to shadow Brian Thomas Jr. with Surtain. I don't see that happening. And so I think Brian Thomas is at least a pretty solid play, especially with the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing. I would rank them BTJ, Diggs, or Franklin, though. Start 2, Bill, Estime, Jordan, if Marks is out. For Ferguson, is Pat Bryant or Trey Harris a more fun play if Rice is out? I mean, yeah, no, with Trey Harris. I mean, he doesn't see enough volume, I think, to be that fun. I think Pat Bryant would be your better bet. I think as far as the running backs are concerned, it probably would be Estime and Bill, assuming Chris Rodriguez is out. I want to emphasize that. It does help the Commanders' backfield that it looks like Jalen Carter is going to miss another week, and that's huge for their rush defense. And so if Carter would be out, I think, and if Chris Rodriguez is out, then I think you go with Bill and estimate. The thing with Jordan is Nick Chubb returned to practice today too. I'm not 100% sure how that backfield split's going to go. I feel like there's a shot with how well Jordan played last week that maybe they give him the same type of usage that Woody Marks would have, and Nick Chubb just kind of mixes in as a change of pace goal line type back. But it's really volatile, so I would probably rather go JCM and Estime if it was me. And then I would go Pat Bryant, assuming he plays. 12-man PPR, one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, two flex. Quarterback is going to be Purdy very easily. Two running backs is going to be Kyron and Brees Hall. Wide receivers is going to be CeeDee Lamb, Juwan Jennings. Tight end, we're going to go with Warren. And then what was the rest of this? Two flex. So yeah, we had CD and Jennings, and then at flex we'll go. I'm just gonna shoot for ceiling here, and I'm gonna go with Brian Thomas Jr. and Egbuka. Or no, give me Dowdle instead of Egbuka. Mm. You know what? No, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with the upside with the pass catchers here because Dowdle could easily get game scripted out of that game. Um, I'm not worried about that with Egbuka. So give me Egbuka and Brian Thomas Jr. Go back and forth on that. That's close. Half point PPR, set the lineup. Quarterback, two running backs, two running. It's going to be Purdy for me at quarterback. Two wide receivers is going to be, assuming Marvin Harrison is out, it would easily be Michael Wilson and Cortland Sutton. If Marvin Harrison played, I would probably just flip to Marvin Harrison. Running back is going to be Bijan and Achan. Tight end is going to be Parkinson. And then your flex, give me Travis Etienne. Defense rankings are here. Yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to play it. I know there was concern about the ribs and everything else, but it was obviously good to see him get back out there and practice in full. I know there was a lot of concern with him. People were debating about Jaleel McLaughlin or Tyler Bidet, but I just know that I think it was a rib injury or something like that. So, um, sorry, I meant out of Reed or Smith. We I think I scrolled past your question so I can refresh my memory. Oh, if Rice isn't playing, Devonta Smith, who is not. So Devonta Smith or Jaden Reed, assuming what you're saying. I would go with Devonta Smith. Kicker rankings coming right up. What happened here? Why did it pull in like that? That's super weird. I just not notice it did that. I don't know why it's saving like that. Try this again. See if it does it again. On my end, before I'm saving it, it doesn't look like that. Let's try it again. See if it does it again. There. That was weird. I don't know why I saved like that. Anyways, there they are. Apologize. No problem to you. Brissett, Mayfield, or Dart. I would go Brissett. It's not close. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has been an absolute monster. So like Brissett has been phenomenal. He's been a QB1 every single week. So like, and that's against like really bad matchups against the Texans, Seahawks, and Rams. Like the only concern you would have is if somehow the Cardinals just got out to a really quick lead and they didn't have to play from behind and they didn't have to play garbage time, and then maybe Brissett doesn't get there that way. But we have seen them play, a game with control because remember they beat the Cowboys, and so like, and even in that game they still threw the ball at a pretty high rate. So it would just, I love this spot here, and the Falcons have allowed the fifth most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So it's just a really good spot for Jacoby Brissett. Stafford or Shook? Would you still lean Stafford? I would go Stafford, but it is we really close. I'm pretty sure I have Stafford like one spot. Yeah, I have Stafford one spot ahead of Tyler Shook. Truth teller, need a flex. Harvey, Tracy, or more. Give me RJ Harvey. I would go with Harvey. If it was me. I think you're going to see the Bears really try to run the ball in that game. Be my guess. Saints or Eagles D? I would go with Eagles. It is really close. Yeah, just seeing the Rice's concussion protocol might have started more after all. Reed from Packers is on waivers as well. Who should I go get him? So right now, after kind of looking through everything, they trying to keep up with all the injury stuff today that was going on because it was a lot going on today with injuries all over the board. So trying to keep up with everything. Um, it sounds like Christian Watson is going to play this week. Um, on Saturday, which is kind of surprising considering I think there were reports that he went to the hospital during that, after that game. I think that was more precaution, but it sounds like Christian Watson will play. And so then at that point, things just get really crowded. Um, so I really don't love Jaden. Like Jaden Reed's fine. Let me put it that way. But like, there's not typically a high ceiling there for him either. You think Chubb will start over Jordan if Mark? Yeah, Woody Marks didn't practice today. Again, Wednesday is not that big of a deal, but for me, I still would think that they possibly would maybe go with Chubb. Like, I mean, I think Chubb would obviously. I think he would get back to being the guy he was with Woody Marks, where like it's more of a change of pace role, right? Like, 'cause you're playing the Raiders. Like, do you really need to like feed Nick Chubb with a ton of carries? Probably not. You have to go like there has been some weeks like all the way back to like week 8 where he had 17 carries in that game and 13 carries. But I mean, for the most part, especially recently, it's been 11, 5, 5, 6, 9, and 1. Like I think there's a much better scenario where he probably sees like 8 to 12 carries and then Jordan gets the rest, but then Jordan also maybe gets some pass catching work as well. But it's hard to deny what Jordan did last week. I mean, it's the first running back all year to have over 100 rushing yards for them. And so I still think there's a pretty fair chance. That's why I think Jordan is still a decent flex option this week. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I mean, obviously, we'll know more much quicker because they play on Saturday night. So we'll have to see if Burden is able to play. It really would, really does suck. I don't think Rome plays at all. I'd be shocked if he played. But Burden, because this is a pretty huge game for the Bears, and they this is kind of one they kind of want, especially if they want to try to win the division. And they actually still, I think, have a shot at the number one overall seed as well, depending on how things play out. But we'll see on Burden. Pitts or Kelsey. So this is going to come down to two things. If Drake London is out, I would put Kyle Pitts probably at my tight end too, behind um behind Trey McBride. If Drake London is back though, I do think that is an issue. And so I would drop Kyle Pitts down, which I did. I have Kyle Pitts at 8, just with the thought that Drake London could be back. And I would go with Kelsey. The only thing is Devonta Smith is not reliable. True. The passing offense has not been reliable this year. That is absolutely true. But your other option is Jaden Reed. And so, like, Jaden Reed obviously hasn't been reliable this year either. And like I've said, with Christian Watson possibly being back, I think that's pretty tough as well. Brian Thomas Jr. against Sertan or Juwan Johnson against the Jets. They'll lay out in your flex. I'd probably go with the safer bet and go with Juwan Johnson. I like what Brian Thomas has done recently. Like it has been encouraging, but the matchups have also been like significantly better as well. It does worry me going into Denver and for this spot, but Brian Thomas has played better. He's seen 13 targets the last 2 weeks. He's had his two of his better games of the season. So, but that was against the Colts and the Jets, not against the Broncos. So I still think Brian Thomas is like a decent wide receiver 3, but I think Juwan Johnson's a little bit better of a play. Kyle Pitts is dead to me. Yeah, I mean, he just went absolutely nuclear last week against the Bucks. I actually need 3 running backs, 2 flex for my question. My bad. Oh, 1 running back, 2 flex. Okay, but still, I don't think it would change anything. Well, the only thing that worries you with Bill, like I've said, is that Chris Rodriguez. Like, what does that situation look like with him back? Like how does that change? Because I mean, he played really well last week, uh, but we've technically been here before with him. But it's also a much different game environment too. Because the thing that would worry you, and this is what would worry me, is in this matchup against the Eagles, is if they fall behind, and now that if this team falls behind, and like it's going to go to Jeremy McNichols, and so I guess like the more I think about it, the more I kind of talk through it, like Bill worries the hell out of me, and it very well could be like McNichols, and so I would go. I feel the best about Esteve right now. We already know Devin Neal's out. And I don't think Kamara plays. So I would probably go Estime, and then your 2 flex, I would go Pat Bryant if he's back. And then I think that since you're out of it, right? Like, I mean, you're not playing for anything, or like you're not playing for like a championship. You're not in the fantasy playoffs, if I remember correctly what you said. I would play Jordan. I would just shoot for ceiling. As long as Woody Marks is out, I would go Estime, I would go Jordan, and I would go Pat Bryant. Is what I would do to try to avoid the toilet bowl championship. I think is what you said. Waller or Gatson or Kincaid. I would go Waller, but I don't love it. Be honest with you. The matchup is phenomenal. Matchup as good as you can get, but it really worries the hell out of me. Goddard or Parkinson. I would go Goddard. Uh Christian Rodriguez practicing full, yeah. I mean, but I still don't know how it changes anything with him. Like I don't know, like with JCM, like playing as well as he did last week, like I still think that they probably lean towards Corey Krosky Merritt. I mean, the season's over with. Why not lean into the rookie? You know what Chris Rodriguez is at this point. But which quarterback should I start, Brissett or Purdy? This is so close. But I would go Brissett. I love Brissett. I love Brock Purdy too. Like I think Brock Purdy's a great play. Both are top 6 quarterbacks for me. I think with Cincy, you're taking on a lot of risk, right? Because it's entirely possible that depending on how the Bengals offense plays, that I mean Joe Burrow has not played well recently. He really hasn't. And I'll say the Dolphins defense has played better than I think what people give it credit for, but a lot of it has been Tua turning the ball over. But like if they could control this game at all, it is in Miami, and they could just run the ball with Devon Achan, then like I don't know. Like I just don't love Cincinnati because Cincinnati gets zero pass rush. And they just obviously have been terrible all year. And so like I don't know if I could get there with Cincinnati. Especially like if you have the Chiefs, I would just go the Chiefs. Am I mad for wanting to play Brissett over Dak? No, you're not mad at all. I would play Brissett over Dak. No problem. Did I skip anybody? Got Texas defense hoping the weather doesn't affect Myers too much tomorrow. I'm not that concerned with it. Kicks in that kind of stuff all the time. Jacoby Myers. Jason Myers has been an absolute dog, though, this year. Like he's been phenomenal. I think he's actually on pace to set the single season record for the most field goals in a season. I think David Akers has that that record, and I think he's on pace to break it. Tyler Warren or Colby Parkinson? I would go Parkinson. I have Parkinson ahead of him. I have Parkinson at 7. I have Tyler Warren at 10. Lamar Jackson or Brissett. I think I had myself on mute. I don't know how long I was on mute for. Hopefully it wasn't. If you didn't hear me, I just realized I had muted myself. I would go with Parkinson here pretty easily. This would be Brissett really easily. I grabbed Estime, McLaughlin, and Jordan because I have Harvey, Neal, and Marks. Dropped Jaleel for Pat Bryant because of the Rice news. Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure. I pretty much loaded my bench with as much as I could. I went out and picked up Audric Estime. Um, I picked up Jordan. I picked up Colby Parkinson, and I don't necessarily need them. I probably won't even play them, but you never know. But I also want to block other people from being able to add them. So pick one quarterback, one running receiver, one running back for PPR. Golf, Purdy, Brissett. I would go with Brissett. Man, don't fail me now, Brissett. I have been all aboard the Brissett train here. Do not fail me now. Go figure. But no, I would go Brissett. One wide receiver is going to be Mike Evans for sure, and then one running back. And then I would go with Bucky at running back. Thoughts on Zane Gonzalez? So he's kind of been one of the, like the under the radar kickers this year. Like kind of one of the guys that like people like. I feel like when it comes to kickers, people will end up just picking somebody up, and then they just leave them for the rest of the year. They won't really make any changes. Where we just see it take forever. For like, for example, Kylie Fairbairn, who is been awesome this year, is actually the number 2 overall kicker in fantasy points per game. Is still only rostered in 54% of leagues, which is crazy. Eddie Pinheiro is rostered in 17% of leagues, and he's the kicker 6 fantasy points per game. But then you have Zane Gonzalez, who's only rostered in 5% of leagues, and he is the kicker 7, averaging 9.5 fantasy points per game over his 6 starts that he's had this year. So I think Zane Gonzalez is a really solid play. I think this game environment sets up really well for him as well in this game against the Cardinals. Let's see exactly what. I can't remember exactly what it was for this week. So the Cardinals and Falcons game has a 48-point total. Really solid. The Falcons have a 25.5-point implied team total. Like, these are the things when it comes to kickers that I'm looking for. And so I really like Zane Gonzalez. I was thinking Watts would be out. Yeah. I was surprised he even played. Very smart move from them to sign him to the active roster uh, with that type of performance he just came off of, especially with him being a rookie last season. Where's the Chiefs D? You can kind of see it. I need to move this out of the way. So I have 11. I had him higher, but I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with Chris Jones, who exited at the end of that game last week. That would be a pretty big, significant issue with him this week if he wasn't able to go, because he's like their entire pass rush. Let's see. Looks like he got in practice today. I don't see Chris Jones. Oh, so he's limited today. So that's a big plus. Yeah, he was limited today. So for the Chiefs, Leo Chanel, Trey McDuffie, Jalen Moore, Rasheed Rice, Jalen Taylor, Tyquan Thornton did not practice. So none of those are that big of a deal. I mean, obviously the other for the offense, it was for the defense. As long as Chris Jones goes, I think Chris Jones and the Chiefs are really good. Still a really good play. Play Evans or Sutton over Pickens at PPR. He has Dak. I don't really care that much about like trying to do the whole like block thing. I think that I get the mindset behind it, but like, um, I mean, it could still not really pay off and really matter. I mean, it's one way or the other. But I really like Mike Evans. I don't even know if I've had these up yet, but So I have Mike Evans at wide receiver 7 here. And so I would play Mike Evans over George Pickens and Sutton for that matter. Yeah, to avoid the Turd Bowl trophy. It's literally a trophy with a bronze turd on top. Love to see it. This is like the most asked question, which obviously because these two are the most ad. I think there's a story to tell on both sides when it comes to these two. I so when it comes to Waller, obviously prior to the Quinn Ewers stuff, like he was a great play because of the matchup against the Bengals. The Bengals have been horrible against tight ends, like we all know. It's been said ad nauseum. And but with Quinn Ewers, I don't know what to expect. I don't think personally Quinn Ewers is very good, but also the Bengals defense isn't very good. So like, can he be more efficient and just not turn the ball over, get the ball out quickly? I don't know. We know the Bengals can't get a pass rush. I will say, like underlying, like last week, like Darren Waller didn't do anything in that game. I know he's coming off a big game, but didn't do anything until those last two drives. But then again, neither did the entire Dolphins offense do anything prior to that point. But he only had one target headed before those last two drives they scored. So with Parkinson, like Parkinson, especially without Devontae Adams, with Matt Stafford, it's a much tougher matchup. But Seattle has struggled with tight ends this year. So I think Parkinson's probably the safer play. But it wouldn't shock me because especially with Waller, tight ends, rookie quarterbacks, they tend to lean on their tight end at times. And so like Waller, like I think it could go either way. I probably with me personally, I would probably just go pick up Parkinson and play Parkinson over Waller just because I think he's a safer play. Harold Fannin or Juwan Johnson, give me Harold Fannin. The dude's just been absolutely peppered with targets. Ryan, pick 2 flex, Junkins, Sutton, McLaurin, Gainwell, McMillan. Give me Terry and Sutton. I don't hate Gainwell. I will say that. Assuming it's PPR, you didn't specify. But if it's PPR, Gainwell does make some sense because the matchup they have. But because they're probably going to be playing from behind. And so that's kind of the way that I see it. And so, like, he is heavily involved in the passing game. And this is probably a matchup they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. And so I think Gainwell is interesting, but I still would probably go Sutton and McLaurin. EC, Marks, Tracy, or Aaron. I don't know if Woody Marks plays. And I don't know if I'd want to trust him, to be honest with you, if he did play against the Raiders. So I would probably just go Aaron Jones. The Giants are like a neck and neck battle for one of the worst run defenses in the league between them and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Commanders. But the Giants are horrendous against the run. Now the question for Aaron Jones is, can he get there or can he score a touchdown? He only has 2 touchdowns this year. He also only has 7 touches inside the 20 this year. It's they've gone to Jordan Mason in a lot of those instances. So, that is a little bit concerning. But the matchup is phenomenal for him. I think he is a really solid play. Need 2 wide receivers and a PPR league between Ibuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Reed, or Johnson. I would go with Ibuka. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. plays, I would go with Marvin Harrison Jr. If Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't play, I would go with Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed or Luther Burden. I would go with. I mean, we're talking a couple of weeks. I mean, there's only a couple weeks left of the season, so it would be Luther Burden. But I don't know if Luther Burden's going to play this week either. So that's the tough part there. But usually Burrow the last 2 weeks, give up on him or one more chance. It really is going to come down to who you got. What are your other options? Kind of wants to grab Malik Davis. Like, that's not a bad option either. But Javonte Williams did practice today, so Kelsey or Fannin, also Javonte, Travion, CMC, Swift, or Marks, the start two running backs. I would go with Kelsey over Fannin with Rashee Rice likely out. And then the two running backs, CMC is a lock. And then I would go with that's close. Probably slight lean towards Javonte. And it's mainly because of his role. Like the fact that he got back in practice today, I think is encouraging. I mean, this is a player that's been awesome this year. I mean, on a per touch basis, he already has 1,100 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns. He's the RB8, 60.1 fantasy points per game, PPR points per game. I know last week he was ceding touches to Malik Davis because of the injury, but which is, I guess it's a neck injury, but he still got a limited practice today, which I think is a pretty positive sign. And so I probably go Javonte, though I will say, I mean, I do think Henderson has a higher ceiling just because of his ability to rip off long runs. Full PPR looks like no Rice got Evans and need one Wandell or Debo, and got Jalen Coker, Rashid Shaheed on the waivers. I would just go Wandell Robinson and just hope that he just gets peppered with a lot of underneath targets. Full PPR, pick a wide receiver and a flex. Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, Ted McMillan, Diggs, Kyron, Godwin, Loveland. Wide receiver is going to be Mike Evans. I have Mike Evans, wide receiver 7. And then I would probably go Kyron, just hope that he falls in the end zone. Oh, pick 2 wide receivers. So Mike Evans and Ted McMillan. Mark, Tyler Shook over Prescott, call me crazy. I think you're crazy. Like, I guess I get it because I mean Shook has been he has been pretty consistent recently. And he's been getting some rushing upside as well. I think it raises his floor a little bit, but he's averaging 18 fantasy points per game. That's good for QB 13. He's averaged 240 passing yards and a touchdown. He's also averaging 25 rushing yards per game. Found the end zone twice. Um, so like I get it, but like also Dak Prescott has been, for the most part, one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the league this year. Throw the ball at a really high rate. I know last week they didn't get there, but like I've said, I mean the Vikings have pretty much shut down every quarterback they've played over the last like almost 2 months of the season. I mean, but if your gut's telling you to do it, I mean, go for it. But I just couldn't do it in the fantasy playoffs. Listen, order who you would rather have as a flex tight end premium. Okay, Higgins, Wilson, assuming Harrison plays, Metcalf, Goddard, Juwan Jennings. So on a tight end premium, I would go with the assumption that Marvin Harrison plays. I would go with Goddard 1. I would go with Juwan Jennings 2. Assuming that's T. Higgins right behind him at 3. Metcalf right behind them at 4. And then I would go with Wilson. EC, how should I feel about Waller with yours? Definitely is a downgrade, but the matchup is still there, and the matchup is still phenomenal. This is not spelling class, so we do not care about that. Do not worry about that whatsoever. We just answered that. Fannin or Parkinson? It's a slight lean towards Fannin, just because of the usage. Wasn't Chris Jones the one that realized the Chiefs weren't eliminated? Yeah. He did not realize that they were eliminated. He kind of was talking like, "Well, we still got a little bit of it." No, we don't. You're out, buddy. And the Chiefs should be out. Let's be honest. The way they played this year has been absolutely dreadful. And let's face it, even if they weren't completely out of it, nobody wants to see Gardner Minshew. Um, in the playoffs if that was a possibility, which it's not. But it is kind of crazy though, because the Chiefs have played I think it's over the last 5 years, it basically equals out to a complete full season of extra of games due to all the playoff games they've been in. It's crazy than everybody else. Do my lineup, please. Wide receiver, Buka, Watson, Godwin, Jaden Higgins, Marvin Harris Jr., Michael Carter, Irving, Henry, Warren. Well, I don't know how many you need. So let's just guess that you need 2 running backs, and it'd be Bucky Irving and Derrick Henry. Let's just guess that you need 2 wide receivers. I would go with Christian Watson and Marvin Harrison Jr. if he plays. If he doesn't play, I would go with Buka. And I guess if you need a flex, I would go with Michael Carter. Truth, I got Olave and Rice in at wide receiver. If Rice is out, I would fully expect Rice to be out. Let's just plan that. I have Juwan Jennings and more. I would go Juwan Jennings. Who would starting? Keenan Allen, Higgins, Slayton on waivers, and got Vikings and Lions ahead of Chiefs. Yeah, I would go with the Vikings ahead of the Chiefs for sure. But I would go with Juwan Jennings. And I would stick with Olave for sure. This is like the question of the week. I'm just gonna make the change. I need to change it. I definitely do because I haven't had. I'm just gonna go. We're just gonna go all in with it. Parkinson for sure. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with Parkinson. Much safer bet, better quarterback play. Just give me Parkinson. Joe, flex Woody Marks, Ikbuka, Pittman, or Brian Thomas Jr. I don't think Woody Marks plays. And if he does, man, there's a lot of concern there. They're playing the Raiders. They do not need this game. I would probably just go Michael Pittman in a much better matchup against the 49ers and their defense. Jake, I don't know how I'm still alive. I got the last playoff spot. Had to win out 6 weeks. You told me Scary Terry last week at my flex. I beat the top team. Let's go. Love that. Especially when you get to knock off the top team. Makes you feel even better. Why is he too high? Explain sound wave. What is too high? Dart over Jacoby. That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. It has more upside. That's weird because Jacoby Brissett has literally not been under a QB1 in any start he's had this year. And that includes starts against like Texans and the Rams. He has consistently absolutely crushed it. And Jackson Dart is playing the Minnesota Vikings, who the Minnesota Vikings have not allowed a quarterback to throw a touchdown against them since week 9, nor have they allowed a quarterback to throw over 200 yards against them in a game as well. So Jackson Dart is arguably not a good play this week. And I like Jackson Dart. Big fan of Jackson Dart. Most weeks have him as a top 12 quarterback. This isn't it. And Mike Evans is coming off a game last week where he didn't even play, I think, 80% of the snaps and still saw 14 targets in that game. I guess a matchup against the Panthers. I don't know how Mike Evans is too high. But if you'd like, you could jump into our Discord. You can send me your rankings and we can take a look at yours to see what yours look like. Listed order, tight end premium, T. Wilson, if Marvin Harris Jr. is in, DK Goddard or Jennings. Did we just do this? But Goddard, Jennings, T, DK. Marvin Harris will be last. I don't think I skipped anything. Flex 1. RJ Harvey, Diggs, Carter, Reed, Burden, pending inactives, injuries, of course, full PPR. I would go with RJ Harvey, but it's really close between them two. Juwan Kincaid or Gatson. Give me Gatson. So this is without Michael Wilson still high up with Marv. No, what I have right now would be with Marv out. We just don't know yet if he's going to play. So I just didn't really. I just kept it as I would keep it with that. I kept Michael Wilson at 9. But for me, if Marvin Harrison's active, I would probably drop Michael Wilson down to like a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. Because I need to move quicker. I feel like I'm a little far behind. I am about 10 minutes behind. Over on Twitch, hey, I got to start to flex. Aaron Jones, Ted, RJ Harvey, Pittman, Jacoby Myers. Give me Jacoby Myers. Give me Jacoby Myers and RJ Harvey. Flex Woody Marks, Gainwell, Brian Thomas Jr., Pittman, or Buka. Did we already had this one? Did I already answer this? Maybe I didn't. I don't think Woody Marks plays. I like Gainwell. Just I think the game environment sets up really well, but I would go with Michael Pittman. BTJ or Marvin Harrison. I would go with Marvin Harrison, assuming he plays. I see you got Wilson and Lamb top 10. You like Harvey, Rice, or Terry at flex. I don't think Rice plays, so we don't have to worry about that. I would go with Terry at flex. Knicks or Lamar. It's close. I would probably still lean Lamar, but it's close between the two of them. But I have Lamar a little bit higher. I think I have Lamar at let me pull it up. Pretty sure I have Lamar at 8, Knicks at 12. Yeah, so it is close. Super chat, appreciate that. Buka or Debo need one. RJ Harvey, Hampton, Javante in order. I also have Vidal. Would you start Vidal and Hampton? One second running back, other in the flex in case both hit against Cowboys. So, I mean, between just those two, I would go with Debo. Between Buka and Debo, and then the running backs, I would go with Javante. I mean, he's practiced. He practiced today, so that's a positive for them. I know last week he kind of was getting mixed in and out with Malik Davis, but I think the fact that he's already back practicing on Wednesday, I think is a pretty positive sign. And he's been a pretty much a workhorse so far this year. And so I really like Javon. I still will bet on Javante Williams anytime. Um, Hampton, I don't think it's too far off, but it's still a little bit of a split with Hampton and Kamani Vidal right now. Now, last week was not a good matchup. I said that last week against the Chiefs. Chiefs run defense has been really good, but last week Hampton still only played 36% of the snaps, 15 carries, only ran 7 routes. So it is a little bit more of a boom or bust profile, but it is a better matchup against the Cowboys. Though the Cowboys' run defense has actually been improved over the last like month and a half. Pretty much just they got Quinn Williams. Their run defense has been a little bit more respectable. But I would still go Javante. He's gotten there over and over and over again. Um, so I would go Javante, then RJ Harvey, then Hampton is the way I would kind of rank them. And I appreciate the super chat. I really need to. I don't know if I got miss all these people. Where were we at? I think this is where we're at. I need to start moving because a little far behind. This is where we were just at. Hit the like button while we wait for answers. Yes, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button. I'm gonna have to move it through because I'm a little bit further behind than I want to be. Um, so yeah, let's move it through a little bit. I've done a lot more explaining or talking, I guess, maybe than I should. Let's see. Bucky's a bump for me, killing me. They won't use near the goal line. I don't know if that's just a 1 week thing though, right? Like, I mean, he scored a touchdown the week prior. The 2 weeks prior before the injury, he scored 16 PPR points in both of those games. Um, I don't know if that's something that I would worry too much about because the usage was still there last week. He still played 60% of the snaps, had 19 total opportunities. Like, it's still a really good spot for him. And so like I would probably that's the way that I would kind of feel about it. I get it. It was frustrating to see, especially like right out of the gate. They immediately brought in Sean Tucker, and then they brought him in later in the game. But I think he's still gonna be fine. Gainwell or McLaurin versus the flex at Eagles. I would probably go McLaurin, but Gainwell, I do think there's some intrigue there, especially in full PPR. But I would probably go with McLaurin. Half point PPR, 12 man, pick two. I would sit Rico Dowdle. Purdy or Jacoby Brissett. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett. And then this, I would go with Tyler Warren over Hunter Henry. Agreed with this one. Gainwell or London. It would be London if he plays. Devon Smith, Diggs, Ted have all been trustworthy, consistent fantasy points. Would be nice for semifinals, right? Yes. Let's see. So I think, sorry, I was trying to, so I saw wind gusts. So I wanted to check. So right now, it looks like it could go either way. It looks like they're saying that it could go either way right now with the weather, but they're saying that first, I don't think and this is chief meteorologist for Roto Grinders, uh, Kevin Roth. He does an excellent job. If you have never, if you want to know about what the weather that's going on, just go and type in or NFL weather, and it comes up, and you can pretty much get a breakdown of all the stuff that's going on. But it does look like it's a possibility of 20-mile-an-hour winds with gusts up to 40 miles an hour. That obviously would have a pretty big impact, but it does look like that maybe rain isn't as big of an issue now with that game as well. So it's definitely going to be something to monitor for sure. I think this is something that I would pay a little bit more close to as the game gets a little bit closer. Gatson or Strange? Give me Gatson. EC, Jake Ferguson or Waller? Give me Waller. Thanks for the advice, Paul. Oh, okay. So I was right. I thought it was similar. Woody Marks, Hampton, Jinty, Javante. Pick three out of this mess. Give me Javante, Hampton. If Woody Marks plays, we're going to go with Woody Marks, but I don't know if he plays. He didn't practice today. So I guess you might be forced into just making this and already making a decision for you, and you're just going to play Jinty. Unless somebody like Audric Estime, or like you could pick up um, Jawar Jordan from the Texans as well, the guy who had 100 yard rushing last week. I'm 14-0 in a season long. Should I start Baker or Dart? I would go with Baker. And I'm not like super high on Baker, but I would still go Baker over Dart. It's like I've said when it comes to Jackson Dart. What worries me is just how good this Vikings defense has been against the pass. Like, this isn't just a 1 or 2 week thing. Like, we're talking about since week 9. We're in week 16. You know, that's the Vikings haven't allowed a passing touchdown to a quarterback since week 9. They haven't allowed a 200-yard passer since week 9. So that really worries me with Jackson Dart. Desperate for a flexible PPR. Pearsall, Estimate, Adnai Mitchell. Thanks. I don't know if Pearsall plays this week. There's a lot of volatility between all three of them. I would probably go Estimate, but I don't mind Adnai Mitchell. I have Adnai Mitchell as a top. I have him as a wide receiver 3, but I'd probably go with Estimate. I think he has a better shot of scoring a touchdown. Yeah, this is absolutely Mike Evans for sure. Goddard or Parkinson? This one I would go with Dallas Goedert. Would you do Ricky Pearsall or Scary Terry? It's going to be Scary Terry. It's very easy for me on that one. And then I would go with Tyler Warren, even in a half-point PPR. Would you start Joe Burrow or Herbert or Baker this week? Critical. So I kind of went through this. So I'll go through this again. On paper, I think this matchup is really, really good for Justin Herbert. It's one of the top matchups on the board against the Dallas Cowboys, right? But here's the problem, and the thing that we've seen with Justin Herbert is through the first 9 weeks, Justin Herbert was the QB2, averaging 265 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He was also averaging 36.2 pass attempts per game, and he was putting up about 21.9 fantasy points per game. But over his previous 5 starts, he's actually the QB 32, averaging 160.2 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 25.2 pass attempts per game, and is averaging 11.7 fantasy points per game. The biggest change here has been Joe Alt, because Joe Alt left and hasn't played since week 9. And with Joe Alt off the field, they are averaging a very poor 6.5 yards per attempt with a 4% touchdown rate. And then with Joe Alt on the field, it was drastically better, 8.3 yards per attempt with a really good 7% touchdown rate. And so like on that point, like this passing offense, and obviously we have the broken hand stuff as well that's factored into this as well. But I mean, but since week 10, the Cowboys pass defense has been awful. Allowing 270 passing yards, only 2 touchdowns per game, 68% completion percentage, resulting in 23 fantasy points per game, which is the third highest rate over that span. And so it is a really good matchup for Justin Herbert, but he just has not played nearly as well. They have not been able to protect him whatsoever. So they've been really trying to rely way more on the run. So that is worrisome as well. But the matchup is 100% there for sure. So I would lean towards Joe Burrow in this matchup against Miami, but the matchup is better, I will say, though, for Herbert. Jake, Harvey or Terry at flex. Didn't know Rice is out. Yes, Rice. Well, yeah, like, I shouldn't say that. He hasn't been ruled out yet, but um, he was added to the injury report, concussion. The Chiefs are out of it. I would be shocked if Rice played this week. Um, and then I would go with Terry at flex. Jesse, Dak or Dart? Give me Dart, or excuse me, give me Dak. Sorry. We should start Rico Dowdle or Hampton on PPR. In that situation, I'm going to go with Hampton. Burrow or Prescott? Give me Joe Burrow. Flex, if Woody plays or not, Jordan or Carter? I mean, if Woody plays, it would still be Carter, I think. If Woody's out, I would still go Carter. It's a great matchup, obviously, against the Raiders. It's the problem is though, is that Woody Marks has just missed so much. It's been in and out of the blue medical tent so much, and I just don't think they really need to throw the ball. Or excuse me, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're going to like would lean on Woody Marks, even if he was able to play. I just don't think the Raiders can do anything against that defense. I think that works against Evans. So many healthy weapons. Yeah, true. But like Mike Evans last week in his first game back to action, I mean, came back and just dominated the targets. I mean, Ekbuka has been wildly inconsistent, but I mean, he came back in his first start and it's all 12 targets in that game. I mean, 6 for 132, 19.2 fantasy points last week against Atlanta. Like, and he only played 55% of the snaps, but he's the clear favorite target. Are we sleeping on Baker when he has a tendency to end season hot? To me, it has nothing to do with him. Like, or it does, but like what it has to do with for me, I guess what I should say, let me rephrase that, is I think for me, it's the injury, the shoulder injury that he has. I think that is affecting him. I do think that is a problem. And I think that's why we've seen the decline in play. I think Baker is a really strong, or is a, I think Baker is obviously a great quarterback, but this injury I think is real. Like, and I think it's been an issue for them. It would just really depend on who you were going to play him over, or what the situation was when it comes to Baker. Plus, Baker is playing for a playoff spot. He's going to go all in. I mean, yeah, they were playing for a playoff spot last week, and they lost to the Falcons. They've been in an all in mode for a while when it comes to them. Strange or Henry at tight end? Give me Brenton Strange. Do you think the slight neck injury to Devontae that they might give him more touches to Davis? Would it be better to start Travion over him? I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, it's really close. I have Javante at 10. I have Travion at 12. And like 12, I mean, and Henderson certainly has a huge ceiling with his ability to rip off long touchdowns. So, like, if that's the way direction you wanted to go, I just feel like that Javante is probably a little bit more of a safer pick. He's been more consistent. Um, And the fact that he already got practicing today, I think is a pretty, so Mike Evans isn't as certain as people are saying to start for sure, but Egbuka or Godwin could steal the show. It's similar to the Chiefs receivers. Not really. I mean, Mike Evans just has consistently been like so far this year, he has a 38% first read target share, which means he is the first read, in the progression 38% of the time, and that is top 7 among all wide receivers in the National Football League, not just for the Bucks. And so, like, he has consistently been the top target for Baker Mayfield when he is on the field. And like I said, last week he only played 50% of the snaps, and he still received 12 targets in that game. And he's still vastly going to be the red zone target, the favorite red zone target for this offense. Um, he's seen 32% target per out run rate, top 5 among all wide receivers. This isn't necessarily like the Chiefs where it gets spread around or other offenses like that. Like, he is the clear favorite in this offense. I think Egbuka and Chris Godwin are viable flex options, like if depending on what other situations you have. But Mike Evans is a clear. Like, I know everybody last week was super worried about Mike Evans and was like, and then there was the reports that he's going to be limited, he's not going to play that much. So people, everybody sat, and he went out and scored damn near 20 fantasy points. So I think Mike Evans is a really strong play this week. Warren or Waller, I would go with Waller. Crazy Mixon won't play this year. Yeah, but we kind of knew that. We knew that all year that this was going to happen with Mixon. Like, I know some people were drafting him like later in drafts. Um, but like the rumblings were there all offseason that he wasn't going to play. Like, I don't know if we'll ever find out exactly or get the true story on what happened. Uh, but like, it sounds like it was something that happened off the field. Is all that people have kind of hinted at. One thing I never take into account is weather, and it's fucked me so many times. I need to follow this guy. Um, yes and no. I will also say people over emphasize weather. I think sometimes too. I think it can also screw you the other direction, where people get so worried about weather and will go away from a game environment that they shouldn't. Like the what was it, the Bengals and Bills game when all the snow, people were getting nervous about that game. Like, I don't care about snow unless it's like a complete like whiteout blizzard. Like, if it's just like snow like that game was, it wasn't that big of a deal. The one factor that we know for sure that affects outcomes and affects offenses is high wind. Anything over 20 mile an hour sustained will affect an offense, a passing offense. It will limit everything to very short underneath stuff. You're not going to see any deep balls, and that is where you see a significant decline or a noticeable decline in passing offenses when the weather is that bad and when the wind is that high. Like, that is the one thing that I care about more than anything. But if we can just like, other than that, we probably should block it out. But it does tend to get hyped up a little bit too much. Crazy question. No one's done a turn. Goddard, Parkinson, Aaron Jones. Flexing both tight ends would be ludicrous, right? No, I don't think so. I think the way the things have gone this year, I don't think so at all. Like, depending on your options, like going with 2 tight ends can certainly be the way. For sure. Oh my sweet Jesus. We need to get caught up. Full PPR, 2 wide receivers, Rice Evans, Michael Wilson, JMO, 1 tight end, Bowers, Parkinson, Waller, flex from the rest. Okay. From Aaron. Appreciate the super chat, by the way. Give me so Rice, I don't think is going to play. We've already kind of talked about that. So give me Mike Evans and Jamison Williams. If Well, we get a flex too. So okay. So Evans, JMO. I really don't, and Brock Bowers, and then at flex, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is out, give me Mike Wilson. Yeah, Michael Wilson. And then if Marvin Harrison Jr. plays, I probably would go with Marvin Harrison Jr. But it really worries the hell out of me. A lot easier when you have two people in here. It helps go through the chat, make sure we're at the right spot. Now I feel like I'm gonna lose where I was at. There we go. Roth is the man. I got Roto Grinders, Sims. It works. Yeah, I mean, Sims have become pretty big, especially not just for best ball, but also for DFS. Would you start Rams defense or Chiefs defense versus the Titans? I would go with the Rams. Kevin Roth was a meteorologist on TV before being on Roto Grinders. Yeah, he does an excellent job. Like that's the only thing I'll go look at instead of trying to go look at go to like Weather Channel or whatever. I just go there. It's phenomenal tool, especially this time of year to try to see exactly what's going on. Adams got hurt. I have Chase, Olave, Henderson, Kyron. I got to flex Aaron Jones, but I also have Goddard and Parkinson. Yeah. Parkinson or Tyler Warren. I'm going to go with Parkinson. Chiefs defense or New Orleans. Give me New Orleans. I had Dart, Baker, and Jacoby. I dropped Baker, and I'm starting Jacoby. Hope he likes that better. I would go with Brissett for sure. I used to hand build my DFS lineups. Now I have hand build. I half hand build and let Sims do the rest. And went from loser to winning thousands. Yeah, if you can find the right projections, because obviously any Sims is only as good as the projections you're putting into them. But if you can find the right projections, like ETR does an excellent job with their projections. And so like then yes, Sims can go a long way, but you also have to understand them and how to work them. But yes, if you can figure it out, there's a huge edge with having Sims and DFS. So that's why for me, I've gotten to the point where I try to stick more to like the single entry and the 3 entry max type stuff when it comes to DFS because it can you're out there playing in like the 150, the 20 entry max stuff. You're playing against mostly sim to lineup, so it becomes a lot tougher at that point. Regardless or McPherson. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, give me Andy Regardless. McPherson obviously did not have a great week last week, but that really wasn't his fault. That was the offense's fault for not being able to really do anything. But Regardless has also been one of the more reliable kickers that we've seen, also, especially in recent weeks. Like he started off pretty rough early in the season, but like over the last like month and a half, 2 months, like he's really started to take off. So I really like Regardless. Bowers or Parkinson? It's Bowers, but man, there is a ton of volatility there with that for sure. I need T Higgins for news for season long. Yeah. It's positive at least he got a limited practice, but he did the same thing last week. Appreciate the super sticker. Appreciate that. EC, Jake Ferguson or Jaden Reed? I would go Jaden Reed. I won one decent prize, hand drafting. I've been thinking about getting Sims. I use Roto Grinders for NFL Sims, and I use Stochastic Sims for MLB, NBA. I will say this, Chris, when it comes to MLB, like I thoroughly enjoy playing MLB. I don't play near the volume when it comes to MLB DFS, but I thoroughly enjoy playing MLB DFS. Like it is one of the most wild like sweats. There was a game last year um, that I was sitting inside the top 10 and then it went completely crashing down because the Diamondbacks just exploded like late in the game. I think it was against the Giants, and they just went absolutely nuclear. Like, yeah, it was frustrating, but like it's a lot of fun. One last week in spite of Prescott, my conscience tells me to start Goff. I have Amon Ra and MOK. Hitting my season on Detroit this week. What do you think? Yeah, I'm perfect. Yeah, I would go Goff, especially at home. Stafford or Baker, I would go Stafford, but it's close between the two of them. Should I start Lamar or Caleb or Rogers? I would go Lamar. I get it though. I really understand the question because it's been pretty frustrating. One game away from the championship. All we need. That's all we need. One more. Just get there, and then we can do whatever we can there. Might be. I've been answering questions for 2 hours. Did I mess that up? And then probably my rankings were probably even up for me too. And I just I did. You're right. Uh with Adams out, how bad of a flex play is Aaron Jones? I got Aaron Jones, Shakir, Goddard, Parkinson. So I think Aaron Jones is interesting as a play. The matchup is about as good as you can ask for sure, when it comes to them. But it's been rough because he hasn't scored more than 11 PPR points, or he's had only 4 games where he scored more than 11 PPR points. And he's had 6 games where he scored 9 or fewer. Um, the biggest problem has been touchdowns, and he only has 2 of those all year, and he only has 7 touches inside the red zone. But we have seen an uptick in usage for him in the last couple of weeks, and the matchup is certainly there. But there's volatility because he doesn't really get involved once you get down inside the red zone. But the matchup is absolutely incredible, and so I do like Aaron Jones. I think there's a lot to like there, but a little bit more volatile play. I think with Goddard, I think Goddard's also an incredible play, incredible matchup. And Goddard has been like the primary target once they get inside the red zone. If they're throwing the ball this year, he already has 9 receiving touchdowns, and I mean he's been pretty solid the last couple of weeks, anyways. Scoring 15.8, 25 over the last 2 games. But there's also some volatility here with this offense, the way this offense goes. But the matchup is phenomenal. I got Houston D specifically for this week. Vegas, yes, Vegas. It's going to be really, really, really gross. If all are healthy, need to sit one. I would sit Woody Marks, and I just say that because I don't know how much they actually play him if he does play. I mean, I just don't think they really need him. Baker's a tough sob, and I love him, but I dropped him this week. Yeah, he gets himself into trouble with it sometimes though, because like that's what cost him, like in Cleveland his last year, because he tried to play through that injury, and um, he played horribly, and I think that really cost him. I don't think he has to really worry about that as much, but because he's so like he wants to play so badly and play for his team that he ends up getting himself in trouble because he's not the same guy that he was earlier in the year. I will 100% say that. Tingley helps that lineup. Rice News is messing me up. I already got Achan and CD Evans starting. I need one running back flex. one tight end, PPR, no premium. Kyron, Chase Brown, Hendy, Rice, or so we're gonna start Chase Brown. We're gonna start Travion Henderson, and then I would start Terry McLaurin, and then at tight end I would start Kobe Parkinson. I don't know who started between Purdy or Stafford, BTJ, Myron Harrison, Mitchell, or Coker, and Broncos Vikings. So I would go with Purdy for sure at quarterback. I don't know how many wide receivers you need. But let's just say one. If Marvin Harrison Jr. plays, you go Marvin Harrison Jr. If he doesn't, I would go with Brian Thomas Jr. And at defense, I would go with the Vikings. What's your thoughts on starting Baker or Dart? I would go with Baker. I've kind of already said this multiple times, but the Vikings pass defense has just been elite like the last almost 2 months of the season. So um, I would go with Baker against Carolina. Which of these three to play? Dowdle, Marks, Pickens, Pittman, Myers, Swift, Waller, Watson, Montgomery. So looking at three, so George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, and Christian Watson would be the three that I would go with. With Broberg now, Shaheed or Coker. I would go with Coker. NBA DFS is cutthroat because of injury updates 24/7. Yes, and like it requires a lot more of your attention because you have to follow it all the way up through, especially on like a full slate where you have to be mindful if you need to do late swaps or if you have to adjust things at the very last second, especially with inactives coming. At least with the NFL, you have like usually it's like 90 minutes before kickoff. You have an idea of who where the NBA, almost on a nightly basis, you're getting guys like right before lock that are getting ruled out, and you're having to settle and go through all this. And then on the later slates, later games, the West Coast games, you're having to sit there and just constantly monitoring everything to make sure everyone's going to play. There's a lot more involvement when it comes to NBA DFS. That makes it a little more frustrating, which you don't really have to worry about that as much when it comes to like NFL. Seahawks defense or Saints defense? Give me the Saints defense against the Jets. Joe, I hate tinkering with my lineup, but I start Hawkinson over Ferguson now that McCarthy realized a touchdown can catch passes PPR. I mean, if that's your only option, I mean, if those are your two options, like I would prefer to play like a AJ Barner if he was sitting out there. See. Interesting Waller with viewers. I'm leaning towards starting Schultz over him. I don't hate that at all. I think it's really close. I think I have Schultz at like what 10, 11. Yeah. So like I think the Waller stuff is really hard to judge because we have no idea what to expect from Quinn Ewers. I don't have high hopes because I think Quinn Ewers isn't very good. So like I think that's certainly something to keep in the back of your mind when it comes to this. Now, it's still the matchup is still there. The matchup is still incredible for uh for Darren Waller, but it's also just as possible that maybe we see Greg Dulcich get a little bit more run. I mean, they were basically splitting routes and splitting stuff like that last week, and it wasn't until the very end of the game where Waller really came on in that game. So I just don't really know what to expect. I think we could easily expect much more from Schultz. And I don't know there's the people that will be like, oh well, the Raiders, can get fall behind quickly. And but we've seen the even in game environments like this, like Nico Collins' two best games this year came in game environments where they just blew the doors off the other team. They did it against the Ravens when Lamar was out earlier in the season, and I think they also had a game against the Titans, I believe, where they did the same thing. And so, like, they're going to continue to throw the ball no matter what. Rico or Hampton, I would go with Hampton for sure. Full PPR, Fannin, Schultz, or Waller. Give me Fannin for this one for sure. Bo Nix, Joe Burrow, or Jacoby. I'm projecting to lose this week. I would go with Jacoby Brissett. Parkinson, Schultz, Fan, and Waller, tough one, especially deciding to roll out Waller, especially with the QB swap. Yes, absolutely. I would go with Fannin though. Okay, I need to hit the bed. Nice chatting with everyone later, Chris, Jake, Kevin. Yes, appreciate you in here helping out as well. Seahawks defense or Saints defense. I need this W. I would go with the Saints defense. I mean, I'll take the Saints defense against Brady Cook all day of the week. I have Puka. Would you still start Parkinson over Warren? I'm fine if you want to go with Warren. It's really close between the two of them. And I don't necessarily love playing Puka and Parkinson together. Like, I don't think it's that type of game environment where it's going to be really high scoring. So I would be perfectly okay with going with Warren over Parkinson. Do I start Pickens or Rice? I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. Hooper edits because I don't think Rice is going to play. Only tied in two for flex: Theo Johnson, Parkinson, Kincaid, Jacoby Myers, Pittman, Estime. So your tight end, I would go with Parkinson, and then for flex, I would go with Jacoby Myers and Michael Pittman. I would go with Jordan Love on this one, Mr. B. Coker or Christian Watson. As long as Christian Watson plays, which he's expected to, I would go with Christian Watson. I got myself one. Kincaid or Ferguson. I'm starting Kincaid. I would do the same. I think. I mean, Kincaid's a little bit more worrisome just because like he's not playing like a ton of the routes. He still is basically been like a part time player, but obviously attached to Josh Allen, and there's obviously volatility here because he's only running about 15 to 20 routes. But I still think he's still in a better spot than Jake Ferguson is. It's really crazy that we're at this point where we could even ask this question, Bowers or Parkinson, but I totally get it. I would go Bowers. We're all thirsty for that W. Yes, we are. Like, there's nothing worse than like you're being the week before the fantasy playoff or the week before the fantasy championship. Like, literally, you're one win away from being there to lose in this round, knowing and like the most inevitable thing happens where like if you lost and then all of a sudden like the next week your team goes out and scores like the most points of anybody in the league, and had you advanced, you would have won. Like, nothing more worse than that. That's absolutely true. Can Tampa defense be a good stash? I mean, we're only talking about a week, so like I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, they're playing. Okay, so yeah, they're playing the Dolphins next week in Miami. Um, I don't hate it if you want to do that, but it's been weird though with the Bucks this year because they're really not rushing or blitzing at as the high rate they used to. I don't know why they're not, but I don't mind that if you want to. If you have enough room on your bench, like certainly you can. I started 1-5, happy to be here, but now that I've got yes, doesn't matter. And once you make it in, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. Like your whatever your records are, do not matter one bit. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a team that snuck into the playoffs. Like, this happened to be because like we'll do like divisions, and like that division happens to be terrible, and a team that won 5 or 6 games all year makes it in barely, and then they've won the championship. Like, at this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, you see teams that went undefeated or maybe lost 1 or 2 games get knocked off by what people think are the worst teams in the league all the time. It's 1 week, and so totally. Wandale, DK, Flowers, Pollard, sit one. I would sit Pollard against the Chiefs defense. I'm 14-0 in a 12-man PPR with 11 ex high school football teammates. I need those. This W. I lose now. I look like a clown show. Yeah. Can't believe I'm 14-0 all because CMC, everyone passed on him but me. Yeah, he's been one of those ages all the time, right? Like last year with Saquon, where people kind of jump off players, or they're hesitant, and so they end up going later than they should, and then they turn out to be, I mean, I don't think he's going to be the number one running back. Possibly could be. Depends on Jameer Gibbs at this point, I guess. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor. Um, but yeah, has been so. I mean, like when it comes to Jonathan Taylor, like it was looking like he was going to run away with it. And then, you know, Daniel Jones injury happened. So that's been like super frustrating. So, anyways, I don't think we've think that's through all the questions, at least for right this second. But But if you haven't already, with all the people that are in here, hit that like, hit the subscribe button. Really do help it out. Really appreciate it. Been going live here for almost 2.5 hours. I am thinking about, depending on how things go, with all this injury information that we have set up for this weekend, because there's so much stuff that we just don't know yet for this week, and it makes it so tough to like go through this and talk about and really have like a concrete um um but I'm thinking about going live again on Friday night because that's the tough part. Like people pull out like content this time of the week, like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, like start sit stuff, like videos, and I'm like, how do you put that out with so much information that we need right now? It feels like playing Week 18 DFS, where like one you shouldn't play Week 18 DFS, but if you did, like it's literally all news. Like you're trying to get as much information as you possibly can and trying to make decisions off of it. It's not nearly as bad as that one, but it just kind of feels like that with all the different injuries going on this week. Jake, I've been in playoff mode for like 8 weeks. I got the edge on all these slackers. I've been doing waivers with no bucks given and winning. I'm hardened. They're soft. Kenneth Walker has been the most frustrating player. He has been by far the most frustrating player this year. It has not been a fun experience with Kenneth Walker. But you know what's going to happen? It's going to happen that Kenneth Walker, because he's a free agent after this year, he's going to go land somewhere and like Kansas City or something, and we're all going to get pulled right back into the Kenneth Walker experience. Like Kenneth Walker, the Kenneth Walker experience has been a 3 out of 10, probably his entire career for the most part. Because prior to this year, it was injuries, right? He would get injured all the time and he would miss 4 or 5 weeks, and then he'd come back. And like it's been like this his entire career. And so it's been super frustrating. If you've ever owned Kenneth Walker, it has not been a fun experience at all. But he somehow pulls us all back in every single time, every single year. What are your thoughts on Coker this week? I think he's fine. I think he's an okay flex play, but there's volatility because he doesn't see a lot of volume, and so he is mainly their deep threat. But I don't think that he's like a terrible play. The matchup is good. The Bucks struggle against passing attacks, but last week 4 targets, 60 yards a score, 14 PPR points. But and he's racked up 11 or more PPR points in 3 of his last 4 starts, but he only has 18 targets over that span, and so it makes it really hard. It makes it much more boom or bust and much more volatile of a play. You still going Buka over Watson or Coker? I would go Watson over Coker, or excuse me, I would go Buka over Coker, but I would have Watson ahead of both, assuming he plays. Very tough deciding between Parkinson, Fan, and Schultz. Schultz should have the best floor. Parkinson could be everyone's crush hopes. And Fannin could be a chill 12 points. Yeah, I think there's a lot of volatility. But to be fair, any tight end really not named Trey McBride, I think is volatile. Like, to be fair, like there is volatility in every single one of these dudes outside of Trey McBride. Trey McBride has been the only, and now I probably just jinxed it. Trey McBride will have a bad week because when you say this stuff, this is what happens. And but Trey McBride has been like he probably should be the fantasy MVP. He won't be by the end of this year, but he probably should be with how good he's been. But yeah, I would still lean Fannin just because of the volume of targets. The only reason I have Walker is because he was involved in the trade I made for Jamar Chase. Now I see how frustrated Walker owners are. Yes, there's nothing worse. It is the worst experience ever, and I can promise you, there's a good chance that he's going to wind up somewhere. And next August, you're going to see a video from me, and somehow he's going to be in it as like a buy low, or not a buy low, but like a value play or a value pick or something like that. In some video, you just know it's going to happen. I get sucked into that dude every single year, and I hate myself for it every single time. Like Luke, I don't even think about it. You told me Terry and Flex over Harvey. You like him better still over Ibuka. Yes, I would still go Terry over Ibuka. Parkinson or Gatson? I would go with Parkinson. But I will say this, I am really excited about Gatson next year. I think Gatson, especially because Keenan Allen's likely gone. So, and obviously, rookie tight end, but like I think Gatson's going to be phenomenal next year. But we're not talking about the next year. Do I start Rice over Pickens? I don't think you're gonna have to worry about it. Rice is likely out with concussion. I got K9 tatted on my arm, down for life. Good for you. 1 year, he's gonna do it. I mean, look at Javante Williams this year, right? Everybody hated Javante. They left him for dead. I mean, even all training camp, all we heard was how good Javante Williams looked and that he was going to be the starting running back, and nobody wanted to believe it. Everyone wanted to say it was Jane Blue or the Phil Maffa hive, and like Javante Williams is 3 weeks left of the year. He has 1,100. He has 1,100 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Saying so, maybe we shouldn't just completely write somebody off, but Saints D or Seahawks? Give me the Saints for sure. Once I didn't even have Javante on my radar, so I did. And I put him in a couple videos I did before the season starts of like guys that are being undervalued, running backs that are being massively undervalued. I think I had him and Tyron Tracy were the two guys. Um, I think I just got lucked into the like I was split with the Cam Scadaboo stuff between him and Tracy. All the reports early were that Tracy was running as the true one. And then Scadaboo kind of broke out, and I was like, well, that was a bad take on my part. So, but Scadaboo ended up getting hurt, so I guess that in the end. But I think the two best values at running back were easily Javante Williams and uh, Travis Etienne. Both of those dudes, I think, went in like the double digit rounds. If it was double digit, it was like eighth, ninth rounds. And both of those guys have easily paid off their value. I was big on Harvey and Henderson. So many people were, and they're like everybody just ignored the volatility here with that situation because one, if you look at Harvey, right, there was a lot of talk about J.K. Dobbins and how the role he was going to have, and then Sean Payton. Sean Payton is the most frustrating coach when it comes to usage there is, and people probably should have been a little more mindful of it. And people were drafting R.J. Harvey in the fifth. Travion Henderson, just go back and look at what Mike Vrabel did with Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis. Like Derrick Henry rookie year, Derrick Henry was splitting touches with Dion Lewis, was not getting a huge workload, and that was Derrick Henry. And Travion Henderson, everybody wanted to just act like he was just going to be the man, and he was going to get all these touches, and he was being drafted in the third or fourth round. It was way too high because of the volatility that was there. I get it that obviously now we see how good the we see how good Travion Henderson is now, like how explosive he is. I don't know why they didn't give him a bigger role earlier, but it's just the way these coaches are. And yeah, it was a big mistake. Remember, Holmes is toast. Do not start any Chiefs wide receivers. I don't necessarily agree with that. I wouldn't go crazy in starting like a bunch of Chiefs wide receivers, but like let's say Rasheed Rice is out. I think that Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelsey can still be fine. I don't think they have incredibly high ceilings, but Gardner Minshew is like a decent backup. And they're still playing the Tennessee Titans. And the Titans defense, especially their pass defense, is an absolute joke. And so like I think some of them could get there. Do I think they have like an incredibly high ceiling? No. Is it vastly different without Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely. But I still think there's viability there with this offense. And because they're not going to be able to run the ball. I do not see that. Um, And it does sound like Trey Smith maybe out. Um, but if I was going to play any of them, it would just be Xavier Worthy, and that's with Rashee Rice out. That would be it. Like I wouldn't get cute and try to play. I really wouldn't want to play Hollywood Brown or anything like that with him out. Like those would be the only two. But the Titans' pass defense has been an absolute joke, and it does sound like Trey Smith could be back, which that could be a big boost to their offensive line, which should help a little bit uh with Gardner Minshew. But I get the sentiment though. I will say that. Like if you have better options, you probably go somewhere else. Like because Kelsey is the only one that I have. I am at tight end too. I think I have Xavier Worthy at wide receiver like 33, 34. So like that's it. True, but like he was being utilized a lot differently before Rashee Rice came back. Like he was seeing like a 22% target share pretty regularly before Rashee Rice came back. And then once Rice came back, it pretty much fell off a cliff for the most part with him. So that being said, I'm going on for 2.5 hours now. So I think I'm gonna get out of here. Appreciate all the support, all the super chats, all the questions, all the comments. Again, I think I'm gonna try to do this again on Friday night because we'll have a lot more information. We have 2 games on Saturday, and then we have the Sunday games. So I think I'm going to try to go live again on Friday night. Don't have anything going on exciting on Friday night, so I think I'm going to try to do this again to get us all locked in, ready to go. We'll have way more information. It'll be a lot easier to make decisions. Probably update these rankings again by then as well, and just feel a lot better about where the slate's at and where we're heading. So, and if you're into DFS, we'll be back again tomorrow night for the DFS breakdown with me and Ryan. We'll be going live about 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there. And we'll get you ready for the DFS slate as well. Keep it locked in here. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate all the thumbs up. Appreciate all the super chats. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.